most bizarre things that have ever happened at Disney World. There was a time where a couple tried to smuggle a baby onto Space Mountain. A couple was in line to ride Space Mountain when their duffel bag started to make noise, and the couple refused to open it. So the cast member called security, and when they opened the bag, they saw a 6-month baby inside of it. The baby was okay, but my goodness. People try to spread their loved ones' ashes in the Haunted Mansion. This actually happens way too often, and cast members have to try and stop it as much as they can. It causes the ride to shut down temporarily for an emergency ash cleanup. A husband made a very bizarre announcement at Cinderella's castle. The family of 4 came in for dinner, and about halfway through, the husband politely stands up and he announced that his wife of 15 years had been cheating on him. Wow. In 2007, Tigger punched a teenager in the face. Apparently the boy was messing with Tigger's costume and Tigger wanted him to stop and he didn't, and then punched him in the face. Okay, there are so many other bizarre things that happened. I will make a part 2.
This is why you should be extremely careful when someone offers to buy you a drink. I went to a punk show in LA with my brother and his best friend. The band I wanted to see wasn't playing yet, so I hit the bar to go grab a drink. That's when this really cute guy approached me and started talking to me. We got to talking and we were vibing for a while. After about 30 minutes, he asked if I wanted to get a beer and I said sure. I watched him buy it and open it right in front of me. He said he was getting hot and asked if I wanted to go outside and get some air with him. I politely said no because I didn't know if they would let us back in, but he kept insisting. At this point, I had drank half my beer and I was ready to go meet back up with my brother. I let him know and I got up, but that's when I started feeling really weird. As I was looking for my brother, I started to get really dizzy. That's when I felt someone's hand on my shoulder. I clumsily whipped around to check and it was the guy from the bar. That's when he said, "I told you we need to get some air. Let's go to my car." At this point, my body felt so weak, I could barely stand. It was hard to think, let alone reply. That's when he put his arm under my shoulder and was carrying me towards the exit. As we were getting closer to the exit, a deep panic started to set in my stomach. I couldn't talk or walk, but I could still see and hear everything around me. Right before we reached the exit, something amazing happened. Part 2 of why you should be extremely careful when someone offers to buy you a drink. At this moment, I felt like the unluckiest, but also the luckiest person in the world. A group of girls noticed that I was barely able to walk and this guy was practically dragging me out towards the exit. One of them walked over and asked what was going on. The others followed. That's when he said that we were friends and that I drank too much and he was giving me a ride home. The girls looked over to me and asked me if he was my friend. At this point, I couldn't even respond. I couldn't even form words to tell them no. Again, he insisted that everything is fine and he's trying to take me home, but the girls were not having it. They said that since I wasn't responding, they wouldn't let him take me. That's when he tried to push past them, but they stopped him and told him if he does it again, they're going to have to fight him. Luckily, my brother and his best friend had been looking for me and they saw what was going on. The group of girls told my brother everything that was happening. My brother told the girls to watch me, and him and his friend dragged the guy outside instead. My brother taught him a lesson that he'll never forget outside and then came back for me. Since we were 30 blocks from home and I couldn't walk, my brother and his friend put me in a shopping cart and took me home. We never got to see the band that we went there for, but I made it home safe and that's all that matters.
So I used to have this earth science teacher in high school, right? His name was Mr. Cole. He was a little weirdo, okay? He's bald-headed and like 5'6". So, he was really particular on like rules and stuff like that. You had to follow them. You couldn't wear like open-toed shoes in laboratory. You couldn't, you just couldn't do a lot of things. Couldn't eat in class, couldn't chew gum, couldn't drink water, couldn't have nothing. So, this did happen in my class. So, I wasn't actually there that day in school. So, one of my friends came to school with flats on for shoes. And she asked, she was like, "Oh, are these okay?" Because she knows how particular he is about everything. And he was like, "Oh, no, yeah, that's fine. You can walk around barefoot if you want." And it was weird. And all the kids were like, "What? Like, what?" So somebody found out that he had a foot fetish website that he would, post pictures on and do whatever he did on. And he had pictures of students' feet. So he would, sneak take pictures of, kids' feet. I do remember him always having his cell phone out. And I remember one of his rules was like, you cannot be on your phone or he'll like take it away. And he would always be on his phone. I remember he would have it angled kind of down. Weirdo bald bit. So they actually arrested him in one of his other class periods. I had him for first period. I think they arrested him like either third or fifth period. And my friend told me this because she was in his class when they happened. They knocked on the door. They was all like, blah, 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 Cole. He was like, yeah, that's me. And they were like, "You're under arrest." And they arrested him. So, yeah, to my knowledge, they actually transferred him over to another school. They did not fire him. And yeah, to my knowledge, he's teaching. Bald bit.
A little girl made me cry last night. So the coffee shop that I work at also has ice cream. And so this lady had brought in her granddaughter to get ice cream. This little girl's probably about 4 or 5 years old. And she asked for ice cream with sprinkles. And so I absolutely loaded it with sprinkles because she's a kid and I have a heart. And the entire time this girl's eating her ice cream, she just keeps glancing at me. And right before they're about to leave, the grandmother brings her up and says, okay, tell her what you wanted to tell her. The little girl looks up at me and goes, I think you're a princess. And the grandmother goes, tell her why you think that. And the little girl looks up at me and goes, because you remind me of sunshine.
What's one really bad thing you did as a child that you kept secret for your entire life and didn't tell nobody? I'll go first. I got a lot of stories like this, but this is just one of them. So my mama used to put me in daycare, and in my daycare, we used to do field trips, and we went to the YMCA. So while we were in the pool, this one white kid comes up to me and he asked me, like, why are you black? And I was kind of embarrassed, but I wasn't mad at the kid. I was more embarrassed than I was mad. And I told him that my parents painted me every single day. And I was thinking back at the time when I scraped my knee and the skin came off and there was like no blood. It was just bone. But I didn't know that it was bone. I thought that I was just white underneath. So I was like, it's true, like I can peel my skin off and prove it. When I did that, I peeled skin off my finger and it was a lot of skin and I started bleeding really bad. So the water started getting red and the daycare people tried to get everybody out the water like there was something going on. And then once everybody was out of the water, one of the daycare people go, I'm so sorry, everybody. I lost my tampon. I need to find it. Okay, so what happened was pretty self-explanatory, but I can make a part 2 if you guys want. Okay, so this is part 2 of the really bad thing that I did as a child and kept secret. So my daycare instructor, or whatever you call them, basically said that she had lost her tampon in the water. And I'm guessing she said that because she was on her period and she had a tampon in and the water started turning red, and that's the only reason that she could think of. But like they started checking all the kids and making sure that all the kids were okay and stuff. And when they came up to me and asked me if I was good, I was like, oh yeah, I'm fine. And so they were looking in the water for like an hour, but there was no tampon. Like they could not find the tampon. Like that one white kid, he was not part of the daycare. Like he wasn't one of the daycare kids. So they evacuated everybody out the pool. Like nobody was allowed in there. And like we all got back on the bus and we went back to the daycare, and the daycare instructor who thought she had lost her tampon literally talked to all of us and was like, things like this can happen as a woman and when you get older you'll understand. But baby, I stayed mute. Ain't nobody know. One person knows, but hopefully she don't see this on her For You page. Sorry, Maddie.
Story time. So this was 2 years ago and I was at school and it was a normal day until the principal went on the speaker and said, we're in lockdown, go in your closets. So we went ahead and went in the closets. We were all confused. Some people were scared. Everyone was like kind of asking the teacher what was going on and stuff. Now during this time, I wasn't asking anything or saying anything because I knew during a lockdown you don't want to say anything. So if there is someone in the school, they won't find where you are. But I was still listening to them because I was curious like everyone else. So while everyone was asking the questions, one girl stood up and said, if you're not going to say what's going on, I'm going to get out of the closet. The teacher yelled at her and told her no. And the teacher yelled loud, so whoever was in the school obviously heard. So the door opened and everyone became silent. And so basically for part 2 time. So this was welcome to part 2. Okay, so the guy that came into our school was a prisoner that escaped prison. So he was like, where are you? And he stood in there for at least 10 minutes. Then we thought he left, but he was completely silent, and the teacher gave us a look saying, do not talk and do not move. So we all listened to the way he looked, and my best friend, the girl that stood up saying she would leave, got up and left. She thought that the guy was gone and she was going to get a counselor. So as soon as she got out of the room, we heard gunshots. As soon as the gunshots said that, I knew immediately what happened. I started crying and I thought that she was dead. The guy didn't even try to come in the room that we were in, even though he knew where we were. He immediately left knowing that he should have not shot the girl. Wait for part 3. Welcome to part 3. So as soon as the guy left, we got out of the closet and started panicking. We didn't know what to do since she was shot in the head and we knew that she wouldn't make it. So we were all freaking out and so was I, and I was crying and I just couldn't breathe right and I didn't know what to do. The speaker went off saying that the police and the ambulance were coming since the principal heard a gunshot too. So when the police came, they found the guy who was hiding in a locker and he got contained and took into the police office. The ambulance were here and went in the room and took her. They said with their face, saying she would not make it. That was the worst day of my life. So the ambulance took her, and about 2 days later, we weren't allowed to go to the school since the guy was still on the loose. He escaped. So we all had to stay at our homes, and I visited my friend, and I didn't know she died.
Storytime about how someone broke in when I was babysitting. When I was in high school, I worked as a babysitter to make some extra cash. I posted flyers in the city I lived in with my rates and my number. For the most part, everything was always fairly normal, but that was about to change. One day I got a call from a woman who asked if I could babysit her 2 kids on a Saturday, but she asked if I could stay overnight as she wouldn't be back in town until the next morning. I had never done an overnight job, but she offered to pay me triple of my regular rates and said I wouldn't have to cook as she would leave money so I could order pizza. After getting my parents' approval, I agreed. At the time, I didn't have a car, so my parents dropped me off. When I went inside, she greeted me, explained the house rules, and went on her way. Luckily, I instantly hit it off with the kids, and they even showed me their secret hiding spot, which was a small hidden room inside of their closet. After the pizza arrived, I heard the doorbell ring again. When I opened the door, 2 men were standing there. They were asking for directions, and I know it wasn't smart to say, but I told them that I was babysitting for the night and didn't know the area too well. I apologized, wished them a good night, and closed the door. About an hour after putting the kids to bed, I was in the living room watching TV when I was startled by the sound of screams coming from the kids' bedroom.